I don't see the picture that I sent them.
Okay, hello everybody. Just going to give everybody another minute or two to log in, see if others are going to join us tonight, and we'll get started. I think I shared the source sheet. In case you didn't get it, I will post it in the chat box right now.
Oh, I lost him. Hello. I lost him.
Gonna get a bottle of water. I'll be right back and we'll start. Okay, maybe we'll get started now. Maybe others will join us. If not, I'll catch it on YouTube. All right. I hope everyone had a nice Yom Tov. Thanks for the how to explain this, the last minuteness of last week. We changed things on the fly to react to what is transpiring in Israel. So I changed the class in the waning moments of the day last Wednesday. But today we'll go back to what we were studying, which was Lecha Dodi. And we are going to. I'm just going to quickly review what we studied previously, and that is the beginning, the first two stanzas. The first two stanzas of Lecha Dodi really deal with. They focus on Shabbat. From discussing Zachor v'Shamor, which are the two ways in which the 10 Commandments, as they appear in the Torah, how they introduce the mitzvah of Shabbat in the two different appearances. And now we have a shift from those first two stanzas, which really deal with Shabbat more directly, to 6 stanzas that follow that deal with the redemption, the geula, and perhaps you might say the ultimate geula here, the ultimate redemption of the Jewish people, of Bnei Yisrael, and there is a particular connection between the geula, between the ultimate redemption of the Jewish people, clearly focusing on a time of Mashiach, and Shabbat. And so we want to think about that. What is the connection of Shabbat and redemption? Because the next 6 stanzas, from Mikdash Melech Ir Melucha through the second to last stanza, really are centered around this. So I want to just begin tonight. Let me share the source sheet on the screen. You can follow along that way as well. And you can see here, again, this is the text of Lecha Dodi. We'll make reference to that in a second. But let's start over here, again, in a sugya that we keep, or an area of Masechet Shabbat that we keep revisiting, which is Shabbat Kuf Yud Chet. And here we start to get an allusion to the connection between Shabbat and redemption. Let's take a look here at this Gemara. And again, Shlomo Alkabetz would have been very well aware of this, because he incorporated this whole idea, the Kabbalists incorporated the whole idea of going outside and greeting the Shabbat, Queen, etc. This is all from this general section of the Talmud that we've already looked at other bits and pieces to this point. So let's see here. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Ilmale Shamru Yisrael Shabbat Rishona Lo Sholta Bahen Uma Veloshon Shenemar Vayihi Bayom Hashvi'i Yatzu Min Ha'am Lilkot Uchtiv Batre Vayavo Amalek. So Rav Yehuda quotes Rav, who was a first generation Amora. So he's living in the 200s. He says if the Jewish people had only observed the first Shabbat that they were commanded to observe in the desert, then no nation or other language, meaning or other peoples, would ever rule over the Jewish people. How do we know this is true? What kind of proof can Rav offer up to us to show us that there's some hint to this in the Torah? And he points to, in Exodus 16, it says that on the seventh day, this is that first Shabbat, when God explained to them the whole system of the man, of the heavenly food that fell from the sky. So God explained to them that on the seventh day, there will be nothing there to pick, and you shouldn't go out. And on the seventh day, people went out, some people amongst the Jewish people went out to try to go and pick the man. It didn't exist. And then what is the next section in the Torah? Vayavo Amalek. Amalek attacked the Jewish people. And so Rav draws a distinction here that because they did not listen to God's command about the first Shabbat, therefore Amalek, the door was open to Amalek to be able to attack the Jewish people. Now, is that a full proof that Rav is offering that is undeniable, that you can't poke any holes in that proof? I'm not so sure that you can't poke any holes in it. I don't think that Rav was not aware of the holes you could poke in that. But the idea being here is that there is a connection in the Torah between observing Shabbat and, I guess you could say, sovereignty of the Jewish people. Let's keep going. Okay, another statement here, another Ilmale statement. Just wanted to give you a little context here of some of these statements. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Okay, we just passed the law of Lag BaOmer a few weeks back. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai was a Tana, and he was a student of Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai was a well-distinguished Torah scholar. He says, were it not for Ilmalish Mishamrin Yisrael, Shtei Shabbatot Kihilchatan, Miyad Nigalin. Were it not for the fact that the Jewish people, if only the Jewish people could observe two Shabbatot, way Kihilchatan, as the law requires, they would follow, the Jewish people as a whole would follow the letter to a T of how to observe Shabbat twice, they would be immediately redeemed. Redemption would come. As it says, what's the proof for this from Tanakh? Shenemar, Ko Amar Hashem Lasarisim, Asher Yishmeru et Shabtotai, Uchtiv Batrei, Vahaviotim El Har Kodshi Begomer. It says in Isaiah chapter 56 that so said Hashem to the Sarisim. These were sorry, how they translate here? Eunuchs, right? They're like what's the word? Another word for this, but they're basically servants, but they've been castrated, I guess you could say. That therefore
Eunuchs.
This is their sole purpose, something like that. Sorry, Robert, did you say that? I realized my volume was low, so I didn't hear what you said. If you said it,
They translate it as eunuchs.
eunuchs, yeah, eunuchs. So God said to the eunuchs, "Asher yishmeru et shabtotai," who will keep my who will keep my Shabbatot, etc. And shortly thereafter, 3 verses later, it says, and I will bring them to my holy mountain, and I will let them rejoice in my house of tefillah, bebeit tefillati. Maybe you recognize this verse from the slichot that we say in Elul, and then also on Yom Kippur itself. And so you see a connection here between the observance of Shabbat, and then mentioned shortly thereafter is if the people observe Shabbat, the Jewish people observe Shabbat, and maybe even in the context there, it may be talking about the other nations too. I have to go back and double check. But then what happens? V'haviyoti mel har kodshi. Then I'm going to bring them to my holy mountain, which is the Beit HaMikdash, and that sounds like Shabbat has a very strong connection to the temple. So that is certainly one level of what's going on here as Lecha Dodi shifts from talking about Shabbat to redemption. It's not to say that redemption is not connected to Shabbat. Redemption is connected to Shabbat. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's tradition was that if the Jewish people observed Shabbat twice, then immediately they would be redeemed. Seems like an easy, by the way, path to redemption, though. Good luck getting all of the Jewish people to observe Shabbat. That's of course the challenge in this, and I'm sure there's what to read into this a little bit more also as well. Why 2 Shabbatot? I don't know if any of you have any ideas why would it be 2 times? But nonetheless, this is clearly a connection that Chazal had as part of their tradition. Okay. So that's one connection. Another connection which I think exists between Shabbat and Geula, and of course Geula is redemption is very much connected to the rebuilding of the Beit HaMikdash. So in Vayikra Yutet, we learn at Shabbatotai tishmoru umikdashi tirau ani Hashem, that you shall keep my Shabbatot, right? God says you'll keep my Shabbatot, and in the very same verse, you shall be in awe of my sanctuary. The Sefaria here translates that as and venerate my sanctuary. Ani Hashem, I am God. So clearly a very strong connection. In fact, we can go even a stronger connection. Anyone know what other connection we can make between the temple and Shabbat? Actually, much even stronger connection than just simply this verse. Make sure my volume is on here. Anyone want to weigh in here? What's the other connection that you could make? I'll give you a hint. We do it every week, or we don't do it every week, I should say.
Don't put on tefillin. No.
What was that? We don't put on tefillin, he said?
Right.
That's true. Let's draw even tighter connection, though. That's true. But what else can we draw?
Melachot Av.
Excellent. Yeah. As Edna said, the Melachot, the Av Melachot, the 39 prohibited labors on Shabbat, the 39 categories of prohibited labor by Torah law are derived from the Melechet HaMishkan, from the work that was done for the Mishkan. because what we learn from the juxtaposition of these two topics of Shabbat and the Mikdash is that the Mikdash can't be constructed on Shabbat. And so we learn from that, where the Mishkan couldn't be constructed on Shabbat. And so we learn what you cannot do on Shabbat from the work that was done in the Mishkan. So there is a very strong connection between the temple and Shabbat, between the Beit HaMikdash and Shabbat. And of course, the Beit HaMikdash is a very central theme in redemption. So hopefully we've made a few points here now as to how these two connect. Let me just make sure there's other points I wanted to make by way of introduction here. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's go to Lecha Dodi, to the continuation from where we left off last time. Okay, so we were up to Mikdash Melech Ir Melucha. So Mikdash Melech Ir Melucha Kumi Tzei Mitoch HaHafecha. So get up. I'm going to translate this a little bit out of order here, but let's do it in order. Fine, let's do it in order. The sanctuary of the king, the Mikdash of the Melech, Ir Melucha, and the royal city, right? Referencing Yerushalayim. We have a command now for that. Kumi tzei mitocha afecha. Yerushalayim should get up and go forth from its ruined and destroyed state. So we have here a command to Yerushalayim, essentially, the Ir Melucha, the royal city, that you shall, now which houses, of course, the sanctuary of the King, of God, get up and go forth from your upheaval, from the destruction that you currently are experiencing, or you're experiencing the remnants of destruction. Ravlach shevet be'emek habacha v'hu yachamol alayich chemla. So the second part of this means that for too long, Ravlach shevet, too long you have been dwelling in the valley of tears. Or maybe it's not valley of tears, it's bacha. We'll talk about what's bacha. Of course, the Hebrew word for bocha would have been with a hey at the end, but there's an aleph here. I'm fully aware of that. V'hu yachamol alayich chemla, and he will, the who, probably the he being here, God, yachamol alayich, will have compassion. Hu yachamol alayich chemla, he will compassionately place compassion upon you. He will shower you with compassion. So we have a city that is turned upside down, mitocha, and God is seemingly giving a command here. I don't know if it's God, or actually not. Maybe it's not God. Maybe it's just the poem is encouraging Yerushalayim to emerge from its upheaval. And too long has that city been sitting in the valley of Bacha. Again, probably means tears. And God will show you compassion. He will shower you and give you an abundance of compassion. So what else can we learn from this? So we have here a destroyed city. What are we to take away from some of the imagery here? What do we make also of the Emek HaBacha? Anyone know where in Tanakh Emek HaBacha comes up? You get bonus points in the Chidona Tanakh for the adults next year. I'll personally put in the request for bonus points. I had to look this up. This is a very hard and obscure reference to find. So if you take a look, I'm gonna scroll down here at source 4 on the sheet that I prepared for tonight. If you go to Tehillim, I think it's 84, right? Did I get that right? I hope I picked the right one. Yeah, it's 84. So let's get a sense of what's going on in Psalm 84. Okay. This is a Lam Natzech al Hagitit Livnei Korach Mizmor. Okay, it's the opening pasuk a lot of times in Tehillim is very difficult to translate. It gives us some information about the song nature of it. We know here something relates to the sons of Korach. Okay, I'll read in English a little bit here. How lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord of hosts! I long. So we're describing the place of God's presence, probably referring to the temple. I long, I yearn for the courts of the Lord. My body and soul shout for joy to the living God. Even the sparrow has found a home, even a swallow a nest for herself in which to set her young near your altar, O Lord of hosts, my King and my God. By the way, side point, a few weeks ago, I spoke about Ukratem drawer in Shul. I don't remember where I was, which minyan. I spoke about it in the Pasuk in Parshat Bahar, Ukratem drawer ba'aretz l'chol yoshveh. And this verse is behind this phrase here about a bird becomes the basis of the Meshech Chochma's commentary, saying that freedom is not just to own your own land. He says you have to be like the dror bird. That means that you have to have the freedom also to be able to sing and to be able to to do what a bird does. And that's what when you're able to have that kind of freedom where you're not just own your own land, but you have the ability to have moments of joy to yourself, that's when you have real freedom. Anyways, Ukratem Dror. So side point, happy are those who dwell in your house. They forever praise you. Selah. In Hebrew, Ashrei Oshrei Veitecha, Od Yehalelucha Selah. Okay? It's not Psalm 145. The opening verse of Ashrei doesn't come from Psalm 145. It comes from right over here. But we're talking about dwelling in God's space. Ashrei Adam Ozlo Vach Misilot Bilvavam. Happy is the man who finds refuge in you, whose mind is on the pilgrim highways. Meaning, even when you're not in Yerushalayim, you're not in the Mikdash, but you're on your way, like Shalosh Regalim, all the Jewish people would go, your mind is always on the way to Yerushalayim, always on the way to God. Here comes the key phrase for us tonight. Ovrei be'emek habacha, ma'ayan yishituhu gam berachot yatem moreh. Right? They passed through the valley of Bacha. That's how they translate it here. Many do understand this, though, as referring to tears, as the valley of tears, regarding it as a place. They passed through this valley, regarding it as a place of springs, as if the early rain had covered it with blessing. So they're going through. People can be in the valley of tears in desperate. And basically in a desperate situation. And yet, as they pass through the valley of tears, they pass through the Emek HaBacha, right? They look at it as a Mayan Yishituhu, as a spring, which is giving forth water, and the early rains have covered it with blessing. Because if our minds are focused on Yerushalayim as we're traversing up to Yerushalayim and we're passing through the driest, deserted place, this is the valley of tears, only sadness in this place. If you really are connecting with God, even in those places, you imagine it's full of water, filled with bracha. And of course, in Israel, water, not anymore. Now Israel has its own water technology, and it's doesn't Baruch Hashem. It's not as dependent on rain as it was historically. But the reality is that if there was a valley there was no water, that was a bad sign in Israel. For the success of the crops and the sustenance of the people, and yet they would imagine that there was already bracha there, because the valley of tears was really, really a happy place, not a sad place in their mind. Just read a few more lines just so you have full context here. They go from rampart to rampart, appearing before God in Zion. O Lord, God of hosts, hear my prayer, give ear, O God of Jacob, Selah. Okay, so you see here this, and he goes on to talk about the Beit Elokai. He's talking about really being in the presence of God in his home. And so if we go back now to where we were before, where are we here? Right, Rav Lach Shevet, you for too long, Yerushalayim, you've been in the Valley of Tears. Now we saw the context. What does it mean? The Valley of Tears is a place where you can change your attitude. You can change your mindset to see bracha. But Yerushalayim, the Jewish people, you're not seeing the bracha. You have to create the will to change it. Yeah, you're right. Right now, it's mitocha hafecha. The city is upside down. But enough being in the emek habacha, right? In the way that it sort of is literally translated. And it's just a state of sadness. If you try to emerge from it, kumi tzei. You know how often sometimes the biggest challenge in getting through a moment in life which is so unpleasant, not even getting through, but coping with it, is about kumi tzei. It's about getting up and moving, going forward. Mitocha hafecha, the life is an upheaval, and how could I ever get out of it? I remember, I think it was Dr. Blumenthal. We've had Dr. Blumenthal in this community, Dr. Norman Blumenthal, speak to us sometimes. I think he actually spoke to us at the very beginning of this pandemic when we all thought it was going to be 14 days in our houses, and we all thought, okay, I could do a 14-day vacation. It's not so bad. He said that, so he in a talk he gave when I was in Smicha to the Smicha students, he spoke about a very tragic story of someone who had lost a child or a spouse at a very young age. It was a very sad story, and I remember it was the woman she didn't want to get out of bed. No, she just stay in bed, go to bed. And the first morning, she sort of, woke up from whatever sleep she had. And she just wanted to stay in bed. And it was the silliest thing that got her out of bed. What got her out of bed? She had to go to the bathroom. And she had to and she saw it. She got up. Okay, I'll go use the bathroom. Okay, while I'm up, I'll wash my hands. I'll, splash a little water on my face. Okay, and she started and it was that moment for her that she told Dr. Blumenthal was that, it was just like, okay, I have to keep going a little bit. I have to take the next step. In some ways, our body is built that way. That was what she was trying to point out, that Hashem kind of pushes us in that direction to keep going. And I remember he shared this, and this is a little bit what this is here. The Jewish people, for years and years and years, Yerushalayim was a desolate city. Shlomo Alkabetz is writing this, 16th century? And he's trying to, he's almost giving chizuk here, let's go, come on, let's get up, let's do this. And God will, in kind, show us compassion. If we do that, if we want to try to dwell in the space of God, God will reciprocate and show us compassion in that journey of trying to, reclaim what Yerushalayim was. I'm just looking 1 second here. There's a comment here, actually, one of the Sidurim that I have, the new RCA Koren Sidur, and they make a reference to this little passage about the Emek Habacha, and this was a valley that was a dry valley located on the route to the Beit HaMikdash that the Olei Regalim, those who were coming for the pilgrimage festivals, would have to travel through this valley on their way. And the phrase implies that in the absence of the temple and the suspension of the thrice yearly pilgrimages, we yearn for the divine command to arise and reclaim the land of our heritage. And the result will be a complete reversal of Yirmiyahu's pessimistic prophecy. I think I included here. Take a look at this. So here's Yirmiyahu's pessimistic prophecy. Let's take a look at the English here. Right? Jeremiah was always referred to as the prophet of doom. He was, doom and gloom. People didn't like him because of that. He was too much negativity, he didn't live an easy life because of that. But he told the truth. He writes here, I will make them a horror to all the kingdoms of the earth, referring to the Jewish people, on account of King Menashe, son of Chizkiah of Yehuda. There may have been no worse king amongst the kingdom of Yehuda than Menashe. Menashe was one of the most corrupt and awful kings that Yehuda ever had. Chizkiah, his father, who maybe you walk through his water tunnels if you've ever been to Ir David, so he is remembered actually Litova for the most part. But his son was really a Rasha. And there's a whole fascinating Gadata in Masechet Brachot about how Chizkiah didn't want to have children because of this. He had a prophecy that he knew his son was not going to turn out to be so good, and Yeshayahu tells him, why are you getting involved in the secrets of the world? God told you you're supposed to have children. Why are you getting involved in the secrets of the world? But anyways, he knew his son was not going to turn out so good. But who will? And then it continues here. Ki mi yachmol alayich Yerushalayim, umi yanud lach, umi yasur lishol lishalom lach. Who will pity you, Yerushalayim? Who will take compassion upon you? Who will console you? Who will turn aside to inquire about your welfare? Right? Menashe led the Jewish people astray from God, worshiping deities that were not the Rabboni Shalom. And so God is telling the Jewish people through Yirmiyahu, who's going to have compassion on you? And no one's going to have compassion on you. The nations are not going to have compassion on you. They're going to kick you out, and they're going to throw you out, and they're not going to care. Who's going to be the one who has to have compassion on you? You always forget this, the Jewish people. Who's going to have compassion on Yerushalayim? It's me. I am the one. So when you finally get your act together and you understand that understand God's role in this in the world and in Yerushalayim, then God will have compassion on that city. And so here you have Rav Shlomo Alkabetz, who in Lecha Dodi is trying to draw our attention specifically to that we have to come take ownership of our future. Right? We have to kumit sei. We have to get up and go. Right? It's not just going to happen. We have to show God we want to take the step to reconnect our relationship with Him in the best way that we can, which is in the city of Yerushalayim. Okay. I think that covers this little stanza here, right? I think that we said a good amount on it. Any questions about this stanza before we look at the next one? Comments or ideas? I don't have a monopoly on the ideas here. So please feel free to open up your mic and share if you feel comfortable doing so. Okay. If there are no comments, so let's look at the next stanza. Okay, we're up to Hitna'ari. Hitna'ari me'afar kumi, livshi bigdei tifarteich ami. What does this mean? What does lina'er? Anyone know what lina'er means? Yeah, I see Edna doing the motions there. To shake. Hitna'ari me'afar kumi, right? Shake yourself off, right? And arise from the dust. Hitna'ari, all right? And me'afar kumi. Again, same imagery of the previous stanza, right? Yerushalayim is covered in dust. We've just been sitting there, You got to shake yourself off. Get up. Stop just sitting there in the dust. Do something. Shake yourself off and get up. All right, so we have kumi here once again. We have another kumi, a command to arise. Livshi bigdei tifarteich ami. Put on your clothes of splendor. Right? My people. All right, so it's almost like it's coming from God here, the way Shlomo Halkabetz is writing it. Right? Ami here. Unless he's the one who's giving that command, But nonetheless, Yerushalayim, the Jewish people, should put on clothing that is more befitting. Right? This is, I was annoyed by this when I was a kid, when I was in high school, something like that, and your teachers tell you, well, with the way you dress or something like that, it reflects on how, in your own attitude. Like it changes your own mindset. Oh, don't tell me how to dress. I see that now, right? As a teacher, and also as in sometimes when I in my own teaching. Right now, I'm not wearing a tie. I should be wearing a tie, but Zoom has made everything more less formal. I don't know. Whatever I teach at school, I walk into a classroom. I always make sure I wear a tie. I want to look like, maybe it's my own psychology in my head, but I want to walk in and I want to look like, hey, I know what I'm doing here. I'm in charge. I'm the adult in the room, right? And you're not wearing a tie. I'm wearing the tie. So the way we dress reflects, right? And so, Alkabetz is saying here, right? Shake yourself off. Get up from the dirt. Change into something nice, right? My people, right? This is you have to try to own it. You can't just wait for redemption to come. You have to make it come. Okay. The second part of this stanza, Al Yad Ben Yishai Beit Halachmi, Karva El Nafshi Ge'ala. Right, through the son of Yishai, from Beit, who was a Beit Lechemite. I don't know what they go by, but they from Beit Lechem. Who was from Beit Lechem? Think about it for a second, and then you'll
Elimelech. Was it Elimelech?
Very good, excellent. Everyone was paying attention over Shavuot. Excellent. Good. From the Gilat root, we actually know that David HaMelech's ancestry, which includes Yishai, right, comes from the whole story that we read on Shavuot, and they were from Beit Lechem, right? Remember, Naomi comes back with Ruth, and everyone says, "Is that you, Naomi?" And then what was all the Beit Lechemites were saying this to her. That was where she was from. So anyways, very good. Everyone was paying attention. 5 extra bonus points on the test. Karva el nafshi ge'ala, right? Draw near to my nafshi, to my soul, and redeem it. So, okay. So you see in the second part here a reference to this is undoubtedly a messianic reference. Perhaps you've heard of the sort of the idea of David, Mashiach ben David, David ben Yishai avdecha mishichecha. We say that in the Kedusha on Shabbat. So whenever we talk about ben Yishai, it should be a trigger for something related to Mashiach. So through Mashiach, who's going to come from the lineage of David HaMelech, in that way, bring us close. Karva el nafshi, right? Draw near. I draw near to my soul. I guess God, and or no. This is probably. Let's see. I'm trying to think who is this? This is God, or this is the Jewish people? Hold on one second. This is just speaking about the redemption that Karval Nafshi Ge'alah, that David ben Yishai, that the Mashiach will bring us close and redeem us. Right? The redemption will be Karva el Nafshi Ge'alah will be soon. So we have here that if we want to bring, here's the key message, that if we want the ultimate redemption, we have to dress the part. You don't dress the part after the redemption. You dress for the redemption. Doesn't say, or one of the questions that you're asked when you go to, after 120, you go to Shamayim, the Gemara says that you're asked, Sipita liyeshua? Did you sort of foresee it? Did you
Anticipate.
Anticipate, that's the right word. Did you anticipate it, or did you wait back for it? Did you say, okay, I'm happy if it comes? No, or did you make it come? Did you do something? Did you anticipate that it was going to come? Did you try to speed the process along through your actions? And I think here what we're seeing is you can't sit back. You have to bring the redemption. It can't be passive. We have to be a part of the process. It's like when God created the world, right? It's there's drasha of Rav Soloveitchik, right? Vayichal Elokim bayom hashvi'i mekol malachto asher asa vayishvi kol malachto vayivarech Elokim b'yom hashvi'i vayikadosh Elo kivo shavat mikol malachto asher bara Elokim la'asot. Why la'asot? Right? Oh, God completed the work that He did. To do la'asot. What is there an infinitive doing at the end of the word? At the end of the sentence. So Rav Soloveitchik was fond of saying that it was now for the human beings to do. Right? God created. He's done. I did my part. Now you do. And it's the same idea. We can't just wait for God to bring the redemption. We have to be the reason that the redemption comes. And that's too much. So in Pirkei Avot it says, it's not for you to be mevatel from the malacha, and it's not for you necessarily to finish. Lo alecha hamalacha ligmor, but you also can't be batel from it. You have to work, and but it's too much. Do your part. We all have to do our parts, and the rest we can't control. But what we can control, we do our best. Same idea is happening here. Let's take a look at down over here. Let me just scroll down a little bit, get to the next set of sources. So here, if you take a look, the way we dress also relates even more directly to the Beit HaMikdash. If you take a look, we read this some weeks ago actually many weeks ago, back in Sefer Shemot. V'asita vigdei kodesh la'aron achicha. There's a command to make special clothing for the Kohanim. Lechavod uletifaret, right, for the honor and for the splendor. And so what is this? What other connection can we draw here? If you remember, it was one of the words we saw in this little stanza, right? Livshi bigdei tifartech, right? Maybe it's a reference to the clothing that was about tiferet, which was the bigdei kahuna. Let's go. Get things ready. And by one of the things I love, if you're in Yerushalayim, if you've ever been to Yerushalayim, I'm sure you saw this, right? There's Machon Hamikdash. They built. You ever see that huge menorah? They have it ready to go for the Beit Hamikdash. That's what I mean. Without getting into the halachic debate, can you build the vessels of the Beit Hamikdash before the Mikdash is built? Okay, let's not get into that. But the idea behind it is actually brilliant because you are trying to bring it along. And so here it's like, put on the clothing, dress the part that you want to see yourself in. And that's what is referenced perhaps here with the Tiferet. One other point here, if you look at Yeshayahu 52, okay, Yeshayahu 52, and we will make reference to this verse next week as well when we talk about Uri in the next stanza. But Uri, livshi uzech Zion, livshi bigdei tifartech, Yerushalayim ir hakodesh, ki lo yosif, yavo vachod arel v'tamei. And we'll make reference to the next pasuk as well in a moment. But awake, O Zion, clothe yourself in splendor. That's what we are basically completely borrowed from this verse in Yeshayahu into the Dodi. Put on your robes of majesty, Yerushalayim, holy city. Right. So we also have a very direct reference to this phrase in Yeshayahu. For the uncircumcised and the unclean shall never enter you again, meaning those who have brought upon the Jewish people and upon Yerushalayim destruction, they will not succeed again. The latter portions of the book of Yeshayahu are all about the prophecies of redemption, starting with Nachamu, Nachamu Ami in chapter 40. Here we have chapter 52, but it's always usually a description of Shivat Zion, of the return to Zion. And you have here that Yerushalayim should put on some nice clothing. Very much, it's really taken from here, probably even more so than the previous source. We're not done though. Take a look. Hitna'ari me'afar kumi. It's actually right here. Shake, shake off the dust and arise. Shake yourself clean and arise from the dust. Shivi Yerushalayim. Right? Sit on your, and they add in the words here, which is helpful. Right? Sit in Yerushalayim. Sit on your throne, Yerushalayim. Come on. You're Yerushalayim. Act like it. Right? Hitpatchi mosrei tzavarech shivya bat Zion. Right? Loosen the bonds from your neck, O captive, the daughter of Zion. You're set yourself free. You can do this. Because you were sold, God said you were sold for nothing, and you will be redeemed with no money. This is going to happen, meaning perhaps just as quickly, maybe, and as easily as it was that the Jewish people were displaced from Yerushalayim, from Israel. Perhaps so quickly it will also be. It won't be a whole process. It will be redeemed without money. It's going to be keheref ayin, and many people, when Medinat Israel was founded and established, I should say, saw this as wow, unbelievable. Could you have imagined a few years ago how quickly, in some ways, from what emerged, in Europe, the destruction, and how Israel emerged, unbelievable. And then in 1967. I mean, again, I wasn't alive, but anybody who was alive and describes it, what happened, the turn of fortunes, from digging graves and preparing for mass destruction to, Yerushalayim was an afterthought. The goal was to survive. It wasn't to have Yerushalayim. And then what happened? The Nisim and Niflaot, that they were able to overcome all the countries that surrounded and the guns and the tanks that were pointing right at Israel. Unbelievable. It turned around the fate of the Jewish people, so quickly turned. And, we have to always do and do and do, because you never know. Suddenly, maybe that's the redemption moment. Maybe it's here, right? And that's perhaps what's being called to here in the 16th century poem is, come on, you never know. Maybe this is our moment. Maybe this is the time. If we do what we have to do, when we do our part, Yerushalayim can emerge, and there can be a geula. Okay, we'll stop here because it's already 8:48. We'll continue next week, in this theme with the Hit'orari, and again, there are 4 more stanzas that really deal with the topic of geula, and then there's the closing stanza about the wedding between the Chatan and the Kala. And so we'll hopefully over the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to finish our discussion of Lecha Dodi. Questions, comments? Well, if there are no questions or comments, I will.